This video is sponsored by Car2Cover, the gap insurance experts. Visit their website for an instant online quotation and use the code JIM10 to get £10 off your purchase. Hello folks, welcome to the UK car news for June 2023. We're going to rattle through this one today, so please give it a thumbs up and share as far and wide as you can. Let's crack straight on. Starting off with this one from Autocar, and it's the UK's best-selling cars of 2023. It's that time of the month where SMMT released their latest UK sales figures, and we're going to look at the top 10 selling vehicles so far this year. We've got number one is the Ford Puma, 17,312 units sold. Number two is the Vauxhall Corsa. It's mad to think the Corsa is still one of the biggest selling cars in the UK. It just continues, doesn't it? Nissan Qashqai at number three, Nissan Juke at number four. I think with those two, lots of discounts around, and I think they're quite popular with the Motability crowd, so I guess that helps the sales figures quite a lot. Number five, Hyundai Tucson. Number six, the Kia Sportage. Number seven, the Tesla Model Y, by far and away the biggest selling electric vehicle in the UK. And number eight's the Ford Fiesta. Number nine is the Mini, and number 10 is the VW T-Roc. A spike in fleet sales is helping the UK car market to recover. Sales to fleets grow 36.9% year on year, while private market stagnates. This is sort of quite a good sign in what are difficult times. The fact that business is investing in fleet again. People often seem to think company cars are the preserve of fat cats and things. Company cars, more often than not, just go to people that need them as a tool because they're travelling all over the country for their jobs. And of course, fleet will include vans and things as well. This to me is good news. The fact that companies are feeling confident enough to invest in fleets again. The private market is obviously stagnating because the cost of everything to us has gone up dramatically. But it'll be interesting to see how this develops over time. But I don't want to sound like a politician, but green shoots of recovery springs to mind. Brand new look for the heavily updated Kia Picanto. Leaked images of the refreshed Super Mini show influence of the new Kia EV9. Tech and drivetrain improvements likely. So as we can see, this is the sneak peek of the new Picanto. I'm not seeing EV9 in that at all, in fairness. Maybe just the shape of the brake lights. But what I will say is that's a far better looking car than the current Picanto. Onto Volvo, we've got a bit of Volvo news coming up here. So the S90, the XC40 plug-in hybrid and the cross-country estate are to be axed in the UK. Swedish manufacturer retires 4 low-selling models as it heads towards an all-electric lineup. I'm not particularly surprised by the S90 because that would have been a company car 90% of the time. And because of the way company car drivers are taxed, which is borderline GBH, company car owners are being left with no choice than to go to a plug-in hybrid or a full electric car, unless they just want to give bags of money to the government every month for no apparent reason. Cross-country estates, I guess, are just being kind of overwhelmed by the public's seemingly unlimited demand for SUVs. And the XC40 plug-in hybrid, I have to say, is a big surprise to me. I thought that would have been quite a good seller for Volvo. XC40 is a great car. It's a nice platform. I know the EV version of it's doing quite well, and you think the plug-in hybrid might, again, with that company car crowd, but obviously not. Good news if you are a Volvo driver already. Volvo adds new Apple CarPlay features in over-the-air update. The new updates are designed to improve Apple CarPlay user experience and are being rolled out to 650,000 Volvo vehicles globally. Now we've got a really interesting bit of news from Volvo. The new Volvo EX30 unveiled. Order books are open for small electric SUV. Volvo's fleshed out its electric car offering with new Volvo EX30. You can order now from under 34 grand. So this seems like a really good price. 34 grand, just to put into perspective, is a couple of grand more than a Fiat 500e. More on that in a second, actually. 2 grand more than an MG4 if you go for the trophy model. So this is very competitively priced from Volvo, who usually, charge a premium for their products. We are looking at 212 miles of range, 0 to 62 time of 5.7 seconds, and it can charge up to 150 kilowatt, which could potentially take your battery from 10 to 80% in 26 minutes. People get very carried away with range, by the way, but consider your bladder range as much as the car range. Because if you need to stop for a wee after 2 hours of driving, in which time you might have done 100 miles, for example, whilst you're in that service station, navigating your way past Smith's, McDonald's, Waitrose, KFC, Greggs, and then you make your way to the toilet and you come back and you go past Chiquitos, Krispy Kreme donuts, M&S Food, Leon, and then you finally make it to the front door, your car's probably got those 100 miles back into it. So 212 miles of range, a lot of people are going to say, wow, it's a lot less than a Tesla. Realistically, it's enough for most people. If you're not one of those people, there's also going to be an extended range version with a larger 69 kilowatt hour battery. That's got 0 to 62 time of 5.3 seconds and 298 miles of range. And then if you want speed more than anything else, there's a twin motor performance version that's got 0 to 62 time of 3.6 seconds. And the range on that one's 286 miles. Boot capacity is about 318 litres. Let's have a look at the car. Interior looks great. Evolution rather than revolution. And as you can see, they've done away with pretty much every button, which I'm really not a fan of generally. But voice commands in Volvos tend to work brilliantly well. From what we can see in that picture there, it looks like a number of the buttons will actually remain static, so you're not having to go through menus to do everything in much the same way as you'll find on something like a Tesla. There we go, not a bad looking car for a little SUV. It's not going to blow anyone's skirt up really, but it's not going to offend anyone. And yeah, quite like that. I'll be interested to have a drive if they let me. Used electric cars look tempting after big depreciation hit. Faster depreciation means used EVs may look tempting next to more expensive hybrid and petrol rivals. So used EVs are currently sitting on a lot of car showroom floors going unsold. So the prices are coming down. And the reason they're not selling is because they're too blooming expensive. So as the price come down, they start to look a bit more tempting, especially when you look at the price of used hybrid vehicles and some petrol vehicles now that seem to be still insanely high. This is a really good article that makes a great point, so I would suggest you come and read it. We're on Auto Express, by the way, and he points out here the AA's analysis of its own used car sales website shows it's possible to buy a 2021 electric Vauxhall Corsa with fewer than 7,000 miles on the clock for 17 grand, when the new cost is nearly 34 grand. They also look at the Hyundai Ioniq Premium, which has a £43,445 new cost and can be bought second hand for 17.5 grand at only a year old. Edmund King from the AA says that there are now some electric used cars with less than 10,000 miles on the clock that are available for half the price that they were when they were new. For all of you that watch any of my leasing content, you'll know that for some time I've been saying to you, don't buy an EV, lease one, because technology is going to improve quickly and the value of your car is going to deplete quickly. I was called an idiot by some, especially with my predictions for the Tesla, and guess what? I was right. Nah. Now, for many people, they buy a new or used car and they insure it. They give the insurers their value because the insurers nearly always ask for the value of the car. And they think they're insured for that amount. That number you put in essentially means absolutely nothing because the insurance company is going to give you essentially trade value for that car, and they'll give you the pre-accident value of that car, not the cost, the value, and they're very different things. So that means if your car's stolen or you have an accident, it gets written off, there's a flood, anything like that, it gets written off, you could be left with quite a shortfall between what you paid for the car and what you get from the insurance company to buy another one. Gap Insurance fills that gap, and this video is sponsored by Car2 Cover, who are a leading provider of gap insurance. You can call them on 01438 870 615 and tell them I sent you and quote the code JIM10. They'll give you 10 quid off any policy. To give you an idea, I often look at quotes on gap insurance in my lease deals of the month videos. 3 years cover on something like a brand new Vauxhall Astra or Audi A3 for lease gap insurance. something like 159 quid for 3 years in the cases that we looked at, which is insanely good value. So it's well worth having a quick look at if you're thinking about getting a new car or buying a used one. You do have to get it at the time you get the car. You can't buy gap insurance 3 years after you've acquired your car. So check it out, cartocover.co.uk, and quote that code JIM10. Still with Auto Express, the Tesla Model 2 has been teased in this image. Now, it's not the most graphic of images. There it is. Looks amazing, doesn't it? There are some sort of artist impressions here as well. I guess this will be very close to what it looks like. A little shrunken Model 3, really. This could be the car that kind of changes everything, because Mr. Musk likes to disrupt markets, doesn't he? And he said before he wants to make this and have it available for under 15 grand. Then I think he said under 20 grand. What it actually turns out at in the end, who knows? Tesla don't seem to rush these days because they're so busy coping with demand for their existing model lines. So I wouldn't expect to see this within the next year, maybe the next 18 months. But when this comes out, if it upsets the market enough, it might mean that EVs are suddenly more readily available to the average Joe. And it might mean some of the more traditional rivals like VW, Audi, BMW, etc. Need to sharpen their pencils a bit and come up with some more sensible pricing. The Model 2 could really be one of the most significant car launches we've seen in many a moon. So I'll be paying close attention to this going forward. Staying with Tesla, the Model 3 is getting a facelift, and it looks like they're going to take some styling cues from the Roadster. Now, the Tesla Roadster, if you haven't seen it, they're not giving us a picture of it here, but it's an amazing looking thing. It's a gorgeous looking thing. So for me, the only thing that lets the Model 3 down significantly is it looks a bit meh. So again, we'll be watching that one with interest. And Caterham have taken a leaf out of Tesla's book by releasing one of these teaser images. There we go. Another image that doesn't tell us a great deal. The Project V, it's previewing their new electric sports car, which is on the horizon. The article's basically just guesswork, so I'm going to move straight on. The new Lexus LBX SUV revealed as the brand's smallest model yet. This will be the smallest model available from Lexus, and it's designed with the European market very much in mind. It's going to share the platform of the Toyota Yaris Cross, which I did a review for on my channel a little while ago. I'll put a link up there if I remember. And that's actually a fantastic car and a great chassis. Obviously, pricing is going to be key with this, but Lexus really lack a smaller car, a bit more of a friendly entry level into the brand. And this could do great things for them. It's certainly quite a cool looking little thing from what we see here. They say it's going to have the 1.5 litre 3-cylinder petrol engine with a CVT automatic. I'm assuming it's going to be the same setup from the Yaris Cross, which is actually an eCVT rather than a CVT. And in that particular one, it feels quite a lot better than a traditional CVT. Very different technology, but they feel largely the same when you're driving them. And that 1.5 3-cylinder is extremely frugal. Honestly, the MPG figures you can get from that car are mind-blowing at times. No idea of pricing on this one at this stage, which will obviously be a huge motivating factor in terms of whether people actually go for it or not. So watch this space. The new VW ID Buzz long wheelbase unveiled a 7-seat electric MPV. Now, lots of YouTubers and influencers and journalists have all been flown over to California. Oh, my invite must have been lost in the post, I think, for a launch of this international launch. So there's been quite a lot about this on YouTube already. So not only do you get a longer vehicle with an extra couple of seats, but there's also an option to have a slightly larger battery. They're not giving range figures at the moment. Now, if you just have your 5 seats in place, you're going to get 1,340 litres of boot space. If you go with all 7 seats in place, you're going to have 306 litres of boot space. And if you remove all the seats, you've got 2,500 litres of boot space, because it's essentially a van at that stage. Right, I touched on this earlier, but the Fiat 500e is having its price slashed by £3,000 as brand calls for more EV incentives. So Fiat saying here that they're knocking £3,000 off, and the government should be knocking something off as well, because people don't have enough incentive to move to an EV. However, Fiat were charging over 30 grand for a Fiat 500e. Now that is a brilliant car. I cannot stress enough how good that car is and how much of a laugh it is and everything else. For the same money, you can get an MG4. You can almost get one of those Volvos that I was talking about a minute ago. So perhaps Fiat needs to look inward a little bit more and do a little bit more with its own pricing rather than asking for handouts from the taxpayer to fund its sales. New BMW i5 unveiled, the first pure electric 5 Series. BMW's executive saloon juggernaut gets an EV variant and is on sale this year from £73,000. Depending on spec, you can get a range of between 296 miles and 362 miles. It's got 322 brake horsepower, 430 newton meters of torque, 81.2 kilowatt hour battery. And it says you're going to get a 0 to 62 time of 6 seconds. It's also thought there's going to be an M5 i5 hybrid version coming up in future that will have some crazy numbers. But we'll talk more about that when it's actually announced. And look at this, I like a Renault. The new Renault 5 Roland Garros previews special edition model. I think this is an amazing looking car. We've already seen that electric Renault 5 a couple of times, but look at this one. It does look absolutely glorious. New Volkswagen Polo GTI Edition 25 revealed. VW's hot Super Mini celebrates 25 years with new special edition. If you haven't driven the latest Polo GTI, I have to say it blew me away when I got the opportunity to drive one for half an hour. I thought it was an absolutely brilliant bit of kit and a real driver's car, a lovely thing in every way. It looks like the numbers are all going to be fairly similar to the current Polo GTI, but it's going to be that special edition. And it's expected to be about £1,500, £2,000 more than the current car. Thanks for watching, folks, and thanks to all of you that buy me a coffee. The link's in all my videos to buy me a coffee, and a special thanks to my monthly coffee members who do that. Buy me a coffee every single month. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. There are just a handful of you, but I love you all dearly. Thanks ever so much for watching, folks. Please like, please subscribe. See you next time.